So welcome to lecture 7 of machine learning. In this lecture, we will take a detailed look at the neural networks. We will see how the forward propagation works, derive the different expressions so that we can easily implement them, and then we will take a smaller look at the back propagation, etc. Fine. So before diving into neural networks, let me recap a bit what we did in the last lecture. That was, I think, on last Wednesday. So in the last lecture, we saw that any arbitrary function, any any graph. So in this case, it was this blue curve. We saw that this can be approximated by a bunch of squares or the square waves. Fine. So in this case, this blue curve is the function, and we have drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares, and we say that okay, maybe they will give us an approximation of this curve. So the red curve here is an approximation. So in this case, as you can see, it's not a good approximation, but as we go on increasing the number of these square waves, that which we call as the bins, the red wave or the red curve, it closely will start approaching the blue curve. So as we go on increasing, we will get as accurate a curve as we go on increasing the number of bins. So you can see here, when we reach around 40, 50, then it kind of the error between the predicted curve or that and the true curve is comes as smaller as possible. So why we wanted to know this was, the motivation was that okay, we we have studied the logistic function, and the logistic function is a close approximation of a step function, and then if we join two step functions, we can always create a square function. So here I have shown you one more example here. So here we had two square functions generated by the logistic function, to be precise. This logistic function is one is here, another one is here. Now if I change the position of the logistic function somehow, you can say I shifted this top logistic function towards the left by a small amount. Now as you can see, when we take the algebraic sum of these two, in this case the difference, the first one is subtracted from the second one is subtracted from the first one, or the first one is subtracted from the second one, whichever way you look at it. So we will get a small square wave. Now as you can see here, so we can generate a particular square wave and then scale that square wave up. That means increase its size or decrease its size, or to be more precise, the height of that, and then at a particular instance we can approximate the output curve. So that was the whole motivation behind these behind introducing this whole concept. Now once we know that, the takeaway is that once we have this square function, now we have a particular square function. This square function can be generated by logistic functions, or which we call in this case as the logistic neurons. Remember, logistic neuron is nothing but we have a summation and we have a step function. So we give it an x as input, and it will give us either 0 or 1. Fine. And this 0 and 1 can be always scaled up by multiplying it with some constant k. Fine. So similarly, if we have two logistics, so logistic 1 and logistic 2, we take the algebraic sum, we can always generate a square wave. Fine. And whose magnitude we can control by multiplying it with some constant, say in this case 2, or some constant w. Fine. So if we have that motivation, then any wave you take, we can create smaller squares. So one square here, another square here, and scale them up and down, and that is how we can approximate any curve. And that is the whole idea of machine learning. In machine learning, but if you remember the first lecture, we said that each system which we want to automate, that is accompanied by a function or a model function, or we sometimes we called it at that point the system function, or I don't remember what the terminology was, but there is this function behind this model, and we are trying to approximate this function. So now finally we have arrived at a point where we have a tool at hand, or we have the basic building blocks at hand with which we can play and we can approximate this arbitrary function. Now, in simpler words, if I want to put it in simpler words, we can create a network of, so we can create a network of logistic neurons. Logistic is, we are taking in this case, but generally we must say sigmoid neuron. So logistic is one example of a sigmoid neuron which is going between 0 and 1. But there are other sigmoid neurons like the tan H, hyperbolic tan, which has the same shape, but it goes from -1 to +1. Similarly, we have others like we have the ReLU, rectified linear unit. So not this, sorry. So that behaves like this. And similarly, we have leaky ReLU, etc. So these are the different sigmoid functions which we have. And using those sigmoid functions, we can always create a step function. So we have these sigmoid neurons, and using these sigmoid neurons, now we can create a network, and that network will help us approximate any function, approximate any arbitrary function to any arbitrary arbitrary accuracy or precision. Now, why I say arbitrary precision, it depends upon how many neurons we are going to use. Now, as we increase the number of neurons, the precision can increase. And if we decrease the number of neurons, the precision can decrease. So if you still have doubt in that, we can always go back to this diagram here. So you see here, as we were increasing the number of bins here or the square functions here, the precision of our predicted function to the true function was increasing. And if we were decreasing the number of neurons, the number of square functions here, the precision was decreasing. So that translates to how many number of logistic functions we will be using. That in turn translates to the number of neurons in a particular layer and the total number of layers in a neural network. So keeping this background in mind, now we can now study these networks of sigmoid neurons, right? And these networks of sigmoid neurons are called as the neural networks. So let's take a look at a general neural network and understand the various terminology associated with it, right? So here you can see I have drawn a general neural network which has 3 types of layers in it, fine? So these blue neurons here, so each of these is a sigmoid neuron, and as I said already, each sigmoid neuron, so let me show you, this is one sigmoid neuron. So we have seen it already in the logistic regression itself. So each of the neuron is made up of can be split into 2 subparts. One is the aggregation part, which takes each of the inputs. So this will take, so like this neuron here, it takes input from the previous neurons. So input number 1, input number 2, input number 3, so on and so forth. So what this aggregation unit does is it takes the weighted sum. So for example, if this here is x1, this here is x2, so on and so forth, this here is x and l minus 1. So this part will produce us x1 w1 plus x2 w2, so on and so forth. So this part we did already in the logistic regression. You must be very comfortable with this by now. And then whatever that sum we generate, we will denote that sum with z. We will create a temporary variable z, which we will call as the pre-activation, but we'll come to that. So we will create this value, and this value will pass through the sigmoid function, and that will give us either 0 or 1, fine? And this we call as the activation, we denote it by A. So this is a basic neuron which is there, and then we create a layer of these basic neurons. So here you go. So these smaller blue circles are all neurons. So this is one neuron, another neuron, another neuron. And then this cascading of these neurons vertically, they will form one layer. So here, in this case, this set of neurons, this set of neurons, so let me change the color here. So this set of neurons here, they will form one layer. Similarly, this set of vertical cascading of these neurons, they will form another layer. So look closely, there is no connection between the neurons in a particular layer. Fine. So we just stack them up vertically. So this is one neuron, another neuron, another neuron. Similarly, this form one layer, there will be one other layer, and there will be another layer, so on and so forth. So these are the different layers which we have. So each of these layers here, they are called as the hidden layers. Fine. Now, uh, please mute your mics so that there is no disturbance. Fine. So these are the neurons here, and these, as I said, these are called as the hidden neurons. Similarly, we have these red ones. These are also neurons, but they have a difference from the other neurons, from the neurons of the hidden layers, in that this neuron has two parts, which I have shown you. It has two parts. One is this summation part or the aggregation part, and other is this logistic part. Fine. But in the output neurons, there is again this aggregation part. Again, there will be but the output function will differ, and that output function will differ in accordance to the task at hand. So if we have a classification task, then this will be softmax, and if we have a regression at hand, then we don't have this output function. We simply take this sum and then pass it to the loss function. Fine. So this group of neurons, they will form something called as the output layer. Then we have this layer of neurons, which is a pseudonym here, which is a misnomer. These are basically not neurons. We just denote them as neurons for consistency purposes, for the consistency of the terminology, but these are not basically neurons. They will just simply pass the input to the next layer. Fine. So that's why this is called as input layer, and we also sometimes in our notes we will denote them as layer 0. Fine. So 0, because this is basically not a neuron layer, this is just the input layer which will pass inputs to the next layer. So you can see here all the other layers, they will take input from the previous layer, do some mathematical calculations, so aggregation and passing through as nonlinearity, and pass it to the next layer. Fine. So those are true neurons. But here it takes an input and passes this input directly to the next layer. So these are not basically neurons, but we just denote them as neurons for consistency purposes, so that our terminology is better. So that when we derive the different expressions, the inconsistencies are taken care of. Fine. Now, in addition to that, we have these bias units at the top. So if you remember, the aggregation, this Z is in the logistic regression we said something like W transpose and X. So, and then in that X, basically we were adding one more unit called as the X0, which we were keeping as 1. So this X unit corresponding to this unit, we were also appending 1 in the weight vector as the W0. So this W0 was basically the bias thing. Fine. So these are all the bias vectors. So if you are still confused, you can again go back to the equation of line y equal to mx plus c. Fine. So this is the slope, this is the x here, this is the output, this one is the bias term here. Fine. So this is the bias term. So we in neural networks, we will separately handle the bias terms. Fine. We can always put them inside. We can always maintain this consistency which we are doing in the logistic regression or the linear regression or the softmax regression. But as you can see, you will find out it unnecessarily introduces certain headaches or some other complications. So that's why we separately will deal with the bias units. Fine. Now, associated with each layer, so these are the different neurons and the different layers. Associated with each layer, as I said, that the job of the neuron is to, with each neuron there will be a weight vector. Fine. So with each neuron there will be a weight vector that it takes the inputs from the previous layer neuron. So if you take this neuron here, it takes weight from this x1, x2, and xt. Similarly, so associated with each input there will be a weight term. So associated with each neuron therefore is a weight vector. So there will be a weight vector with this one, weight vector with this one, and weight vector with this one. So a cascading of or arrangement of these weight vectors W1, W2 dash 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 Wn for a particular layer, and if we arrange them in a matrix, fine, so that will form as a weight matrix, fine. So associated with each layer therefore is a weight matrix. Also for each neuron there will be a bias term. So this will have one bias term, another bias term, another bias term. So for n neurons in a particular layer there will be n bias terms, and therefore there will be a bias vector, fine. So remember earlier when we were studying the logistic regression, we had only one bias term, but since here we are taking a group of neurons or a layer of neurons, there for each neuron there will be one bias term, so they will then form a bias vector, fine. So keep these things in mind, and then we can move forward. Just a last bit of notation. As we said that with each layer there is a weight vector, so we will denote the weight vector of a particular layer by W with the superscript of layer L, fine. This L will denote the layer number, so this is layer 1. So the weight vector with respect to this matrix, this layer will be W1 with a capital, fine, because it's a matrix, as we are already seen that it will be with a capital letter, fine. So this will be a W1, and then we will see. So if we then have to denote a particular weight in this particular weight matrix, so we denote it by I and J, fine. So this will denote as the whole weight matrix in it. So now what does this mean? This means here this is a weight matrix, fine, associated with layer 1, where Ij denotes that I from layer L minus 1, J from layer N. So for example here, if you see here, I have shown it separately here. Now in the layer L minus 1 there is neuron I, in the layer L there is neuron L. If we have to show this weight, this will be denoted by capital W, layer L. So the layer L means that the neuron is in layer L, so this is here. The weight is coming from, or the input is coming from neuron I of layer L minus 1 to neuron J of layer L. So J here belongs to layer L and I belongs to layer L minus 1. So please keep this thing in mind, because this is very handy. This is all we are going to use throughout this treatment of neural networks. So I hope you must be comfortable now with the different notations. Now what we will do now is we will take a smaller network. This is a general network. There are n layers, and so one more piece of notation to denote the number of neurons in a particular layer. We will use n and subscript it with the L. So this denotes number of neurons in layer L, fine. So NL. So that means N1 will be the number of neurons in layer 1. So N2 is the number of neurons in layer 2. Similarly, so on and so forth. The only special consideration is that in layer L, NL will be equal to K, the number of classes in case of the classification. In case of regression, maybe it will be 1, or in case of multiple regression or multitask regression, that means if we have to predict different values rather than only one value, then this will again be equal to K, fine. So in case of a classification, this NL will be equal to K, fine. So I hope you are comfortable now with the notation. Now we will move forward to an example, fine. So here what I have shown you is what are the connections with one neuron here. Again, I will briefly summarize it. So if we have this neuron ALJ, now ALJ means this is a neuron in layer L and it is the jth neuron, fine. So this is layer L, this here, and out of this layer, out of the different layer neurons in this layer, this will be the jth neuron, fine. and then it will receive inputs from all the neurons of the previous layer. So neuron 1, neuron 2, neuron n l minus 1. So n l minus 1 means the new number of neurons in the l minus 1th layer. And between, so each of these edges will have a weight here. So this is W1J. That means weight of the neuron J in layer L coming from neuron 1 of layer L minus 1. Similarly, WL2J, so on and so forth. And then finally, we will have also a bias term here as well. Fine. And then here we have shown the operation of a particular neuron. It takes all of these inputs, sums them up. So here we have shown you I goes from 1 to n l minus 1. That means all the neurons in the previous layer. You associate a weight to the inputs from the previous layer. That will be the outputs from the previous layer. They will act as inputs of this neuron. So you take the weighted sum, finally add a bias term, and that will give you this Z term. Fine. So this is called, so we read this as the pre-activation of neuron J of layer L. Then we will pass this ZLJ through the nonlinearity, and nonlinearity here is the sigmoid or the logistic, and that will give us the AL of J. That means the activation or the out of Jth neuron of layer L. Please be comfortable with the notation. Write down all the things. I will provide you all the notes, but be comfortable with the notations. That is how you will be able to understand the difference. Fine. So I will unmute you, and if you have any problem, please raise the question. So is the notation correct? Sorry, easy for everybody? Is it understandable?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So should I move forward?
Yes.
Sir, what is
Great.
the use of the bias term? थोड़ा सा इसका significance अगर आप
Yeah. So okay. Let me show you. Fine. So you see here. Okay. Let me show you. Let me take that. So you see here. These are the two neurons. Fine. We have shown that the sigmoid function. This is 0. At 0 we have 0.5, and this is the x-axis. Fine. So this is the normal sigmoid function. So the normal in the normal sigmoid function we have at x equal to 0. This is 0.5. Fine, and the rest is greater. For x greater than 0 we have 1, and for less than 0 we have them as 0. Fine. So in this case it is centered at what? At 0. If we want to shift it right or left, that is when the bias term will come in handy. Fine. That is what the bias term is for. Or in case of the linear regression, we have this y equal to mx. Y is equal to mx plus c. Let us say that c is equal to 0. Then at that point of time, is x equal to 0, y is also equal to 0. Fine. So if the bias is not term, all your lines will pass through this origin. Fine. It is the bias term that helps us shift this line up or down the y-axis. That is what the bias term is. Does this make any sense? By the way, I have written about this in the notes. You can also consult them. If you still have any problem, you can always contact me personally. Fine. Okay, fine. So if the notation is fine, everything is clear, then we can move forward. So let's take an example network. Here we have 3 layers, 2 hidden layers, 1 output layer, and then this input layer. And in each layer we have 3 neurons. Fine. So for layer 1 we will have weight matrix W1. For layer 2 we will have weight matrix W2, and layer 3 we will have weight matrix W3. Fine. Similarly, we have 3 bias vectors: B1 for layer 1, B2 for layer 2, and B3 for layer 3. Fine. So here we have the input vector, which is also of 3-dimension 3. We have kept it so because we wanted it to be simpler. So any input x we have 3 components: x1, x2, and x3. And finally in the output as well we will have three outputs. So this will be y1 cap, y2 cap, and y3 cap. Now, can anybody tell me whether we are dealing here with so let me say okay, this is a classification task. Can anybody tell me whether we are dealing with binary classification or multiple class classification? Yes, is this binary classification or multi-class classification? Look at this vector.
Multi-class.
It's multi-class, hai na? We have done it in softmax as well. Fine. So normally our problem statement would have been D. So look here, I have given it here. D is composed of tuples x and y, while we normally say y belongs to either 0, 1, dash 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 up to k if we have k classes. Fine. But since as we saw in the softmax regression, we wanted to output the probability of each class. What is the probability that this x belongs to class 1? What is the probability that this belongs to class 2? What is the probability that this belongs to class k? So that is why we modify this y as a one hot vector encoding. Fine. So that's what we did. So in y one hot encoding, y will be equal to a vector of dimension k, and it will have one only in that place. If it so let us assume that this y belongs to class k. So let me do one thing. So let me do one thing. I will end the class here, and you also join after some time. So we'll join again at 11:35 because I have a call from the dean. So I will attend this call, and then we will also join again. Fine.
Okay, sir.
11:35.
Okay, sir.